Hello, my friends, and welcome to another daily devotional. Today's devotion comes from something that I have seen lately that affects me ideologically. I want to tell you a tale of two stories. First, I came across a Dear Abby type of post of a concerned citizen that lived next to a park. She wrote in asking what to do because she lived in a seemingly safe neighborhood, but every day around 2 p.m., she saw a 5 to 6 year old kid walk into the park by themselves and playing without any adult being around. This bothered her considering the rise in kidnapping and sex trafficking in this country and the seeming American apathy towards it. She wrote in asking advice of what she should do. In another situation, there was a young man who owned a food truck. He noticed his customers, and every day the young man would come out and eat at his there was a young man that would come out and eat at his truck and leave a tip. Noticing for a few days that the young man had not come around, he inquired about him to find out from others that the young man had been kicked out of his home and was living on the street. Finding out where the young man was, the owner of the food truck waited until the end of the day, took all the money he earned from the truck for the day, found the young man, gave him the money, and offered him a job. Two very different scenarios that help me illustrate a valuable point to me. Do we love people enough to put some skin in the game, or are we just all bravado and bluster without having to risk anything? Paul writes, "Having so fond an affection for you, we were well pleased to impart to you not only the gospel of God," and then he continues going in 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 8. But that's great. Paul didn't shrink from sharing his emotions with his flock. This strong man, an apostle of Christ, looking back on the Thessalonians, said, "Oh, what an affection I had for you. How dear you were to me." Those are affectionate words of intimacy. You could argue, well, that was his flock. But didn't Jesus command us to attend to the whole world, effectively making everyone we come across our flock? No one is so important that he or she is above kindness. Are children of God willing to risk all for the sake of the well-being of others? If it was your kin hurting, your kin alone, how far would you go? Would you be willing to risk all? Why don't we feel the same way about others? If you see a child by themselves, isn't it worth the risk of embarrassment? Worth the time, the effort, the involvement, the resources, or at times even injury to see that that child is okay? I have seen a young man jump into a river on top of an alligator to help his friend escape it from stalking him. I have read a story about an uncle who fought off a shark so their niece could escape its grasp. I have seen men risk their lives to buy back abused children from sex trafficking rings and get them to the authorities for medical help and protection. Good people, willing to risk it all for the life of others. Sounds a lot like Jesus to me. Sounds a lot like him. I challenge you today to take stock of where you are. What are you willing to risk for the cause of God's love over his people? Are you willing to get involved? Are you willing to risk your time? Do you care enough to get messy? Because God was. And as his followers, so should we. Keep praying and let him keep preparing us for the greatness he has called us to. Talk to you again soon.